lead-in plumbing, the strengthening protections against unfair contract terms, safety resets, the COVID-19 update and mandatory vaccinations, the casual definition update, the Queensland Government Procurement, the increase to the General Retail Award, and then Ernie's going to go through notifiable work, itemized accounts, apprentice completion, license limbo, and supervision. So that's just a little bit of an update on what we're actually going to be covering tonight. And we'll go to the next slide now. All right, so I'll give you a quick update just in relation to training, events, communications, and our advocacy work. So I'll start off with training. So obviously, as a registered training organisation, MPAQ has developed and delivered training courses specifically for plumbers and apprentices to upskill their knowledge and qualification. MPAQ has been successful in sourcing funding from Construction Skills Queensland to help the industry with the cost of training. We have just been advised that some subsidies will extend through to next year. We have also developed a purpose-built mobile training platform to ensure that we can bring our training to members in regional Queensland. We also offer the flexibility of online and correspondence courses as well for plumbers and gas fitters to undertake. And this year we've offered some different courses, including core skills courses and our new course that we've created, which is called Estimating as well. Details for any upcoming courses are available on our website, or please give us a call and we'll be able to help you. I might just ask everyone to go on mute just so there's no feedback. That would be great. Thank you. Okay, in terms of our events and communications, so the MPAQ events team, we've obviously hosted multiple face-to-face events, focusing on some of the professional and personal development of our members and the wider industry. And some of our events were postponed due to COVID, and some were transitioned to online. Our awards night is coming up on the 15th of October, and I believe there may be a couple of tickets still available, but majority have been sold out. We've got over 650 people registered to attend, so it's going to be our biggest awards night to date. We also still have some golf days coming up later in the year in Cairns, Gold Coast, and Brisbane as well. And the Sunshine Coast, sorry. In terms of our advocacy, so advocacy is a really big part of our role as an association. We provide submissions and feedback to government when consulted, but we're also proactively lobbying for a number of things. Roofing and stormwater, we want it to be licensed work, and we want plumbers to be able to do that work, plumbers and drainers, sorry, because we know that plumbers and drainers are taught those skills when they do their apprenticeship. We are also looking for more support for employers to put on apprentices. So we understand that the federal government released the Apprentice Boost scheme, but we know that that is only for a limited time up until March 2022. So we're really talking to the state government about what's next, what can they do to subsidise to help employers cover the cost of college for their apprentices. Implementation of compulsory continuing professional development. So this is something that the association has support for many years. We believe that there should be some sort of compulsory development program in place where additional training would be required to be undertaken, or the current training that licensees already do would be noted as part of their continuing professional development to ensure that we are upskilling our industry. We're also advocating for the removal of unfair terms in contract, and I'll talk about this a little bit further down. And of course, improvements to the fire protection licensing, and some of those have come through and some still to come, and also the general compliance of the QBCC as well. All right, we'll go to the next slide. And I'm just going to provide an update around lead-in plumbing. So there was a decision for a regulatory impact statement, which was considered by the Australian Building Codes Board. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to make a decision on how to progress forward about reducing the levels of lead in plumbing products. So the lead content of plumbing products in contact with drinking water will be limited to 0.25%. And these will be reflected in amendments to the 2022 version of the National Construction Code. So that was just agreed to recently at an ABCB board meeting. There will be a 3-year transition period being implemented for the recertification of copper alloy plumbing products in contact with drinking water through the Watermark certification scheme. Also, there'll be an implementation plan developed in consultation with stakeholders like manufacturers with the Australian Building Codes Board. And also prioritising of the consequential amendments to applicable plumbing product specifications and the Watermark certification scheme. So this is just to make everybody aware that these decisions have recently been made. There won't be any immediate impact for plumbers at this stage, but over time there will be changes, obviously, that manufacturers and suppliers will need to be able to adjust to in relation to the manufacturing of their products. All right, we'll go on to the next slide. All right, so this one's around the strengthening protections against unfair contract terms, and I mentioned this earlier. So the federal government announced the release of an exposure draft legislation, and it proposes reforms to strengthen the unfair contract term protections for consumers and for small businesses as well. The Assistant Treasurer, Minister for Housing and Minister for Homelessness, Social and Community Housing, the Honourable Michael Sukkar, and he announced the release recently. Excuse me. The exposure draft legislation would implement the reforms agreed by the Commonwealth, State and Territory Consumer Ministers in November. And the consultation of the exposure draft legislation and explanatory materials closed today, the 20th of September. So we've been working closely with our counterparts through Master Plumbers Australia and New Zealand, and we've prepared a submission collectively around ensuring that these unfair terms in contracts are excluded. All right, we'll go on to the next slide. Petroleum and gas statutory roles and obligations. So MPAQ has recently participated in the Safety Reset program, which has been developed by the Honourable Scott Stewart, Minister for Resources. This looks after the portfolio for petroleum and gas. Some of the messages that they've requested we share with members relates to those members who are also gas fitters. A lot of the info that they've provided is really tailored to mine sites, but some of the elements are reminders for members, and they include: every person, regardless of role, has an obligation to do what they can to ensure the safety and health of themselves and of others. Authorisation and licence holders and people in certain positions of responsibility have additional special obligations under legislation, depending on the type of authority or the licence or the role. If you make a safety and health complaint to an inspector, they must investigate it. Specific protections are contained in Section 708C of the Petroleum and Gas Act 2004, and there's also under the Workplace Health and Safety Act, where they've got special protections. You can also raise concerns with your supervisor or a senior manager or businesses for gas fitters. You can contact Petroleum and Gas Inspectorate on 1300 910 933 or email gassafe@rshq.qld.gov.au. Your safety is serious, and it is illegal for anyone to discriminate against you or cause you any detriment if you make a genuine complaint about a health and safety issues. You have a legal right to stop the job if you believe it is unsafe. All right, so that's just a little bit of an update that I wanted to pass on. The safety reset is something that's come to us recently, so we wanted to be able to share that information with you. All right, I'm now going to hand over to Kim Campbell, our Senior HR Advisor, to provide an update. Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Penny. Hi, everyone. I thought we'd just give a quick update on COVID. So there's a lot of speculation in relation to the mandatory vaccinations. As most of you should be aware, the residential aged care facilities, the federal government mandated that all employees and contractors that enter residential aged care facilities must have their first vaccination by mid-September. So we're now past that date. So it is important if you are doing work in residential aged care, and we have noticed that some retirement villages and other places where there are vulnerable people are introducing their own policy and procedures where there is a requirement for anyone coming on site to have their COVID vaccination. If this affects any of your business, and you do need to fast track employees having their vaccination, please contact either Emma or myself on the Workplace Relations team, as we have steps for you to take that gives you priority under the Queensland COVID Task Force. So the border bubble at the moment, and this changes from day to day, it's essential. It's for an essential worker to enter Queensland, they must receive at least one dose of the COVID vaccination prior to entry. So if you live down near the border, you operate within the border bubble, you need to be aware that your employees must have at least the one dose prior to entry into Queensland. MPAQ also has a number of guides and templates available. So we have an essential worker authorisation letter. We've got a guidelines document in relation to COVID and what you can implement within your business. We also have an example policy and we have an example COVID safe plan. To access these, they're available in the members only section under Workplace Relations, or just contact either Emma or myself and we will be able to go through that with you. So sorry, we'll move on to the next slide. So you would have seen articles that MPAQ put out to members late last year. There was a case that went before the Fair Work Commission where a casual employee was deemed to be a permanent employee, and the employer had to back pay annual leave to that employee. That decision has been overturned, and the Fair Work Act 2009 casual definition is now a person will be deemed a casual employee if an offer of casual employment is made on the basis that the employer makes no firm advance commitment to continuing and indefinite work according to an agreed pattern or of work, and the employee accepts that offer. Further, at the time the offer of casual employment is made, the following is to be considered. Can the employer elect to offer work, and can the employee accept or reject? Will a person only work as required? Is the employment described as casual employment? And will a person receive a casual loading or a specific rate of pay under the terms of the offer? So if we look at the Plumbing and Fire Sprinklers Award, you can only hire a casual employee for a 6-month period before you need to offer either full-time or part-time employment. So if you have an employee hired as a casual and they're doing 40 hours a week, week in, week out, they're no longer a casual employee. They're considered to being a regular employee. There's regular work on offer, and they expect that they would be offered work, you know, the continuing week. So if you have an employee in that situation, just give Emma or myself a call and we can talk you through the process in relation to a casual employee. Sorry, we'll just move on to the next one. So over the past 12 months, MPAQ were involved in a consultation piece in relation to the mandate review for the Buy Queensland Procurement. So the ethical supplier mandate for 2021 outlines how the Queensland Government manages instances where suppliers on projects fail to meet the requirements of the Queensland procurement policy, make commitments and don't follow through, breach contractual or policy requirements, or break laws. Now, the ethical supplier mandate applies to all Queensland government work. You may notice if you have contracts with the Queensland government in relation to maintenance with hospitals, public schools and things like that, when these tenders, when these contracts come up for tender, you may be asked to comply with the ethical supplier mandate. Now, this will also mean that you may have to pay EBA rates when your employees are working under that contract. So if you do apply for a tender with the Queensland State Government and you're having difficulties in working through that tender, please give either Emma or myself a call and we will be able to talk you through that process. Sorry, I'll just move on to the last slide for myself. For those of you that have a retail arm, that have retail employees, there was an increase to the General Retail Award that took effect from the first full pay period on or after the 1st of September. So given last year and the Fair Work Commission staggered increases to a number of awards, you would have seen notices come out in e-news that the Plumbing and Fire Sprinklers Award, the Building and Construction and the Clerical Awards that cover most of our members, they increased from the first full pay period on or after the 1st of July. However, the Retail Award was staggered to the 1st of September this year. So that new wage sheet has been put up on our website. So if you go to the members only area under workplace relations, you'll be able to access that wage sheet. They did make changes to the General Retail Award back in April this year. So junior employees can now only be employed under levels 1, 2, and 3, whereas previously they could be employed under any level. So that's all from me tonight. If you do have any HR or IR questions, please give either Emma or myself a call at the office. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you very much, Kim, for providing that update for us this evening. All right, and now I'm going to hand over to Ernie Kretschmer, our Technical Services Manager, to talk anything technical related. We might go to the next slide. Thanks, Summer.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This first one comes off the back of a it's a double-barreled question. It comes off the back of a Facebook post that I came across where someone was complaining that their customer had asked for an itemized account and there was argy-bargy in the group. And the majority of people were saying that they didn't have to do it and to charge for their time. And look, be careful the questions you ask online, because if there were 20 answers, 19 of them might have been wrong. And people will follow whichever one suits them, and you might be doing the wrong thing. So in regards to itemized accounts, look, if the work's over $75, you must provide a receipt. And receipts have to include your business name, your ABN, the date the work was done, a list of the goods or services supplied, and of course a total or a price. Now, within 30 days of issuing a receipt, your customer can request an itemized account. Now, that itemized account, once requested, and it's 30 days from the date of receipt or the date of the actual invoice, whichever is the latter. Once requested, you have 7 days to provide that itemized account. Now, you must do it for free. You can't charge additional fee to itemize that account. It must be legible, as in it must be easy to read and understand. You must use plain language. You need to do a breakdown of your hours and labour. You need to do a breakdown of your materials, and you need to explain how you came to that price, sort of thing. It's not onerous. Everyone. We just had one. I just had one today where the plumber wanted to charge more to do this, and saw it as a great hardship to have to do this, and it really shouldn't be. You're not. Another misconception is that you've got to provide your pricing from Reece or TradeLink or wherever you get your gear from. That's not the case. The materials you provide make you the supplier. So Reece don't buy their gear for the price you pay for it. The same thing when you pass on that gear, you're the supplier. So you're putting down what you're charging for it, not what you paid for it. You don't need to go down to the nth degree and list off how many pop rivets you used and how many nylon olives you used. Those sort of things would be covered under incidentals. But you are listing off a breakdown of the work you performed and the materials and time you used. It shouldn't take too long at all. I'm thinking 5-10 minutes to break down the price that you've already given. Okay, next slide. Apprentice completion and sign off. This was another one that's come through, and we've actually taken this one over to QBCC. So you may be aware the signing off requirements for an apprentice. So an apprentice is technically under two trainers. Yourself as the employer is one part of the training, and then you've got your institutional training being TAFE or the college or somewhere like that handles the theory and institutional training. When the apprentice passes all that, they receive a completion certificate from them as well. Now, the apprentice, once they receive both of those, so they're signed off by the employer and they're signed off by the RTO, they're no longer an apprentice. Their contract is now finished. That puts the apprentice in a bit of a funny position, because under our legislation, the only person who can perform plumbing work without a license is an apprentice. So once they cease to become an apprentice, they can't perform plumbing work anymore. So there's that limbo period from when that happens, and then they go and make an application for a license, and then you've got that time period before they get the license. That period of time, they can't do plumbing work. They can do unregulated work. For instance, they can work on a roof, they can work on stormwater, they can perform work of an unskilled nature, such as digging trenches or filling in trenches or something like that. They can do drainage work under supervision, but they can't do plumbing work itself in that period of no license. Once that license gets approved, they receive their provisional license. They have to be on the provisional license for a minimum of 12 months. And then they can apply for their open license. And I've got their provisional issues. One of the issues we're seeing with provisional licensees is your provisional license is only valid for a maximum of 12 months. At the end of that 12-month period, it's not a renewal, it's actually a reapplication. So every 12 months, a provisional licensee must reapply for that provisional license. Whereas on the open license, it's a renewal. So after your 12 or 5-month stint, you renew your license, where the provisional must reapply. The problem being there is, if you're on your provisional long enough, eventually you'll go to renew and the qualification or the licensing requirements have changed. And you won't get another license. You'll have to upskill. You'll have to go back to college and do some training to get your qualifications up to the new requirement. So I'm advising people that they shouldn't, if they're on a provisional, they shouldn't keep renewing it. They should at least transition to the open license if they're eligible, because then they hit the renewal cycle, not the reapplication. Next one. Apprentice supervision. This comes up lots and lots and lots. Apprentices require direct supervision, and direct supervision means you're on site with them, or a supervisor, a licensee is on site with them. Now, on site with, when I say on site with them, I mean in direct contact. So it doesn't mean you have to be both at the same task together. You can have your apprentice working in the bathroom while you're in the kitchen, for instance. You don't actually need to be holding each other's hands, but at the same time, you can't be working at Queen's Wharf and have the apprentice on floor 2 and you on floor 11. You must be working together reasonably. It doesn't matter what year the apprentice is. It doesn't matter if they're first year or a fourth year. They require exactly the same amount of supervision. There's no lenience there, dependent on the year of the apprentice or anything like that. We do still get a lot of confusion about that, and a lot of people do agree and a lot of people don't agree, but currently under the law, that is the requirement. If you need to leave site for whatever reason, to go and get materials or something like that, you can't leave the apprentice there on their own. They either have to come with you, they have to go and get the gear, or you have to do it afterwards. You can't leave the apprentice unsupervised. Okay. Some notifiable work stuff, renovations, replacing versus remodeling. So if you are remodeling, let's say a bathroom, you're pulling out all the fixtures, you're retiling it, repainting it, and then putting new fixtures in the same spot or in the same place. You're not moving pipe work. That wouldn't be notifiable work. That's minor work because you're not actually altering anything except for tiles and paint jobs and stuff like that. If, for instance, though, you're putting the shower where the toilet was, the toilet where the vanity was, and you're actually moving things around, that all becomes notifiable work because you're moving and altering pipe work, moving fixtures and altering pipe work. Garages, people upgrading their garage into or repurposing it for something else, or putting plumbing work into a garage. If it is attached to the building, so the garage is part of the house, and I'm talking about a class 1 house, the garage being attached to the house, it would be notifiable work to add fixtures to that. Toilets, showers, sinks, whatever, it would be notifiable work. But if it is detached, as in it's a separate class 10 building, it's not part of the class 1 building, and there's no existing plumbing in that building, it would be a class 1 application, or sorry, a form 1 application, a permit application. So form 1, form 7, you may or may not need plans, depending on the local government, you probably will, and you will have to book your usual inspections. That is unless the detached garage already has plumbing connected to it. If it already has, say, a laundry in it or a wash down sink or something, it already has plumbing to it, you're just going to renovate or upgrade it, then it would be form 4. Likewise for granny flats, if a granny flat is attached, let's say you convert the garage into a granny flat, it's going to be notifiable work. But if it is detached, it's a new structure, it's no different to building a new house on a block. It'll be form 1, form 7s, and all the usual inspections. And trade waste. Trade waste is a funny one. Depending on the water service provider in the area, trade waste can have a slightly different definition. But the loose definition is if it's waste produced from a business that's trading, it's trade waste. And trade waste does not fall under notifiable work. It will be a form 1 permit straight off the bat. Also, QBCC have put together a tool for notifiable work. It's a web page interactive tool, and I'll just get you to click on that one, Summer. It's very simple. There's 7 questions. Now, in answering each question, it will either take you to the next question or it'll stop you dead if you've answered enough for it to answer you. So and you can't answer in a different order. You must work from 1 to 7. So does the work you're doing, is it relating to an existing building? So if we say yes, and is the work you're doing involve drainage on a 2 to 9? Well, no, let's say we're on a class 1 house. Does it include installing a new appliance or fixture with something on a combined drain? We'll say no, we're not on a combined drain. What class of building is it? Well, we said it's a class 1. And is it a new building or an existing dwelling? We'll say it's existing because we're just doing some maintenance on the place. And what type of work are we going to do? We'll say we are maintaining. And describe the item you're working on. Let's say it's a tap, a cistern. It tells me it's minor work and I can keep going. I don't need to worry about a Form 4. Now, if I tick something different there, it might have come up and told me it's notifiable work. You need to submit a Form 4. For instance, Summer, if you change number 2 to a yes. No, stop, it's permit work. You can't put in a notifiable form. You must put in a Form 1 and a Form 7. So that link will be up on our website. It's also on the QBCC website, and it may help you if you need to ask that question at some stage.
All right, thank you, Ernie. Some very useful information there, and it's a great little tool there on the QBCC website if people are not sure. All right, so we've kind of given you an overview of some of the topics or some of the calls that we've been receiving recently. We haven't had any comments come through on the chat, but does anybody who's online have a question? And happy if you would like to speak to it. You don't have to put your camera on, you can just talk to it if you'd like.
Hello.
Hello, Keith.
Yeah, how you going, Penny?
Good,
Yeah,
how are you?
I'm not too bad. Yeah, my question was with regards to the not Ernie stuff, the one with the lady before with the employee stuff. Is the redundancy still in place for plumbers? So if you employ a plumber on a full-time basis and he's worked for you for a certain period of time, that you've got to pay that really long-winded redundancy that's not in any other trade?
Yes.
I'll let Kim talk to that one. Yep.
Hi, Keith. Yes. The industry-specific redundancy clause is still within the Plumbing and Fire Sprinklers Award, the Building and Construction General On-Site Award, and a Cleaning Award. MPAQ has been meeting with other MPAs, and we are looking to make changes. If you'd like to find out more information, did you want to give me a call tomorrow?
It doesn't have to, I'm going away for work tomorrow morning, so we'll probably be next
okay.
week.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm a nominee at a company now, and I'm an apprentice there actually as well, and I'm happily working there. But the boss is concerned because when I mentioned that to him, we were going to ramp up the water side of the business, obviously, and he's like, "Well, I'm not going to do that because electricians don't fall under that role." So now we're looking at casuals or contractors instead because of that exact clause.
Okay, yeah, it might be best if Kim takes this offline and chats with you.
Yes.
Next week when you're available, Keith.
Yeah, no, that's all right. That's good. Not a problem.
Yep.
I just wanted to ask the question.
No, that's good. Thank you. We've just had 2 other questions come through. Can Ernie please address temporary commercial kitchens?
Yep, certainly can. So first things first, there's no such thing as temporary plumbing. So if you're connecting up a temporary kitchen, temporary bathroom, temporary something, you have to follow the requirements of the standards and everything has to be installed as per that. Secondly, can you expand a little bit more on temporary kitchens? What actually is the question?
It's Damien. I don't know if you want to talk to it.
Are you on? Hey, hello.
Damien, I'm not sure if you want to talk to it or type in. In particular, the company installing these, he says.
Yeah, I think I know what the question is, but I'm not sure.
Do you want to repeat it and then we can see if you can say yes or no?
Yeah, so what are the requirements of the company installing it? So if
can talk to you tomorrow and have more information regarding that. Can talk to you tomorrow to have more information regarding that.
So if someone's, and we've had a couple of these come up recently over the last 6 months, I suppose. If first things first, a temporary kitchen is trade waste, or a mobile kitchen is probably a better way to say it. A mobile kitchen, commercial kitchen is trade waste. So it will be a Form 1, so a permit process. You will be contacting local government. It'll be Form 1, Form 7, and you will be having an inspection, at least one.
Okay.
So the problems we've seen is there's companies out there. We've got the same problem with granny flats and other people, demountables, where people tell the builder or tell the homeowner or tell the property owner, it's fine, you don't need anything, it's only temporary, and they just whack it on site and connect it up. It needs to meet the requirements of the standards, and in this case, being trade waste, it's a Form 1.
Okay, thank you, Ernie. Kim, there's a question here saying, was Kim saying that it is now mandated that all aged care contractors must be COVID vaccinated? I cannot find this online.
Okay. Yes, it was mandated by the National Cabinet back in July. So the requirement was that all people working in residential aged care, which would include any contractors that are going on site, must have their first COVID vaccination by the 17th of September. So that was actually made mandatory by the National Cabinet. And what we've found here in Queensland, that a number of residential aged care facilities and retirement villages have now implemented policies for their facilities, which it is a requirement if you enter their facilities to have had your first dose of the COVID vaccination. So that's an individual thing that different companies are taking on. We all would have seen the news where Qantas has made it mandatory for their workers, SPC as well. So individual companies can make it mandatory for their sites. However, the National Cabinet have only made it mandatory for residential aged care workers.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kim. And Ernie, just following on from the previous comments, it says people are currently lodging the form, then they have 6 weeks before an inspection. In that time, they are removing the temporary kitchen. Sorry, it's just follow-up comments from the previous one.
Do we know what jurisdiction, Damien?
As in council jurisdiction?
Yeah.
Not sure.
For instance, in Brisbane, you can, and I have spoken to Brisbane about this.
He said, sorry, no mic
no
on.
mic,
I'll chat tomorrow, Ernie.
Yeah. So in Brisbane, I've chatted to Anthony Tabe and Howard, his boss, about this, and they will, if it's for instance an emergency for whatever reason, we need to put the commercial kitchen in tonight because we need to make breakfast in the morning. They will work with the plumber and the installer. They will, they won't pin anyone as long as you contact them and say this is what's got to happen. They will work with you on that sort of thing. You could also do a quick application or a what's the actual term they use? A fast track. There is a fast track application through BCC as well. If it's Brisbane we're talking about, other local governments may treat it slightly differently. But if
Damien's there now, he can talk. Go, Damien.
So yeah, only in follow up to one of the ones we were dealing with recently, they've since changed their pattern now, and they now do put in Form 1s. They've finally listened after abusing plumbers on multiple occasions, saying that we're just trying to rip our clients off. In doing that, since found out they're lodging their Form 1 for a permit, then they know that they've got 6 weeks if they get a warning or anything like that before anyone from council is going to step foot, because that's the ruling. So before council step foot in that 6-week period, they don't really care because their temporary kitchen's only going to be there for 4 weeks.
Damien, is this the same mob we've spoken about?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that Brisbane City Council is very aware of who they are.
I found the plumber too.
So I know also that this company has rung a few people making threats, and Brisbane is watching them like a hawk.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do they have a plumbing company? Because I'll call you tomorrow if you want. I know the plumbing company that's doing it now.
Yeah, I think I do as well. But yeah, happy to chat to you tomorrow. That's no problem. Yeah, no, the council is working with them to try and keep it all above board. But like I said, they are watching them. If there's anything going on that's untoward, they'll be slapping people. So
that's good to hear that they're all over them now.
Yeah, definitely. Very aware of them.
All right. Thanks, Damien. Does anybody else have any other questions? Any other queries? Anything else that's come up recently that you'd like to raise? We've still got a few more minutes.
Yeah, Penny, it's Gary here.
Hey, Gary.
Yeah, it might be a question for Kim.
Yes.
Do you know of any current system of notifying a nursing home of your immunisation rather than getting hard copies, or is there a smart system that's coming in with off the register that you can prove at the counter when you're at the residence?
Okay, all I can suggest at this stage is to download your certificate from your MyGov account onto your phone so that you can show them, if you're in at the counter, you can show them. At this stage, I believe the government is talking about vaccination passports, but nothing has been put out in the media at this stage. The only evidence we have is our COVID certificate once you've had the 2 vaccinations that you received to your MyGov account.
Yeah, I heard this morning, Gary, that in Victoria in particular, they're concerned about people providing fake passports or fake certificates. So they're looking at ways to build, when you do your COVID check-in, that's linked to your actual vaccination certificate to verify, I suppose, that that's actually you. But I think they were kind of looking at the software at the moment of what that looks like, and to ensure people don't, rot the system, so to speak. Sorry, Ernie, you were going to make.
Can I just add to that? There is a fake, at least one. There is a fake check-in app that does everything that the check-in app does, so that when you show them, it says you've checked in, but it actually doesn't do anything.
Crazy, isn't it?
I love it. Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yep. Thanks for that.
As soon as something does come out, Gary, that we can pass on to members, we've been keeping abreast of everything that's happening, and as soon as there's any changes, we are notifying members through e-alerts or e-news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Keith, you got a question?
Yeah, I got a question more for you, Penny, actually.
Yes.
As of the big Tim Mander spiel last week on the QBCC in Parliament, and then the rebuttal from Mick de Brenny on Friday, is there any more information or updates as to, this is with regards to fire licensing, and is there any more updates as to what's happening with that at all, or is there anything changed at this stage?
So I saw, obviously, I've seen both of them, the response, I've seen the Parliament speech by Tim Mander and also the response by Mick de Brenny. Probably the only comment that I will say is there was comments in there about a fire course costing $19,000. I've been advised that that's not true.
If you do 3 genres of fire, that's actually spot on. If you do sprinklers, special hazards, and something else, one's 6.5, the other one's 7.
I think from an apprenticeship perspective,
No, he's talking about certificate 4 to keep running your business. But anyway, keep going.
Ah, right. Okay. But no, there's been no other further comments on that.
Okay, nothing at this stage. Yep.
No.
Okay, no, that's cool.
Thank you. Sorry, Gary, did you have another question you wanted to ask or?
No, I was just commenting further on my MyGov account.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
I hadn't completed one, and then COVID struck, and then the site got too busy, so haven't gone back there yet.
Keith and Mackay, did you have any questions or anything you wanted to ask?
No, I'm pretty good. I do have the MyGov pamphlet here for looking up your COVID registration. It's got a scan code on it,
Yes.
but I've got nothing else to add to the conversation today.
Okay, thank you. All right, does anybody have any other questions they'd like to ask? No? All right, well,
One question, Penny, with regards
Yes.
to the fire licensing training stuff. I
yes.
spoke to Ernie about it briefly. Is there a chance moving forward that master plumbers can start to bridge that gap from the fire industry to the general plumbing industry to, shall we say, stop giving the NFIAQ total and utter control?
So do you mean in the short term, are we looking at delivering fire training?
Well, certainly in some regard, not necessarily apprenticeship, but in some regards, yes. Cert 4, certification, design licensing, because a lot of the plumbing side of it with hydrants, hose reels, if you sort of see what the requirements are, I'm in that industry, as you know, and I'm hearing sprinkler fitters now absolutely screaming because of the amount of training they've got to do to go get individual contracting licenses and stuff.
Can I throw something into this, Pen?
Sure, go for it.
Keith, there's one major problem.
Yep.
Is anyone, Keith, Gary, Keith, is anyone trying to hire someone at the moment?
Not at the moment.
Do you know anyone who's trying to hire people? Because I can tell you that I probably get 5 calls a day. People looking for people. No one can hire anyone at the moment. Everyone's got a job.
All right.
Keith, to answer your question, we don't have a trainer that could do it at the moment. We're currently advertising for a trainer / technical person, and it's proving a difficult position to fill because everyone's out there got a job. So I don't think I've got an immediate answer for you on it.
Okay. No, fair enough. I was just that I'm in the industry, as you know, and we've spoken in depth on it in a short one-on-one, but there's people absolutely screaming behind the scenes that are and these are guys that are 20, 25 years in the industry, and they're absolutely screaming.
And I totally understand, and we have spoken about this before.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have the magic bullet that can solve it today.
No, I understand. That's not. Yeah, that's what I just thought is something we, as an association, that we can try and expand more into the industry to try and, shall we say, make it more association based and less union based.
Yeah, look, nothing's off the table. I just don't have the tools at my disposal.
Oh, we'll talk about it in a one-on-one situation in the future.
Sure.
All right. Well, I don't think we have any other questions. So I'd just like to say thank you to each of you for your time today. Thanks for joining us. Thank you to Ernie and Kim for providing some information and some of the questions that they're getting asked frequently. We plan to hold these meetings every 2 months. So our next meeting will be held on the 12th and 15th of November. So we'll have some topics up that we're going to talk about. If you have a specific topic that you'd like us to cover, if you can please send through an email and we'll be able to focus on that topic. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We really appreciate it and have a great evening. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right.